Thank you for waiting. We now would like to start the symposium in honor of Hamaguchi Goryo, keeping the spirit of Goryo Hamaguchi alive. I am Mizuho Sato from TV Wakayama. I will be serving as the MC for the event. Thank you. First, on behalf of the host of the event, Governor of Wakayama Prefecture, the Governor Yoshinobu Nisaka, would like to welcome you with the opening remarks. Good afternoon, everyone. The Festival of Culture, Kinokuni Wakayama Cultural Festival 2021. Different places in Wakayama is hosting a variety of events for this festival. As one of the events, we are now hosting the symposium of the disaster prevention, which is very important for us. And in particular, this is a symposium in honor of Hamaguchi Goryo, and we are very happy to welcome you for this event. Today is November 5th, and this is the day that's called the World Tsunami Awareness Day. And actually in Japan, this is the Tsunami Disaster Reduction Day as well. And actually, this day was adopted as the World Tsunami Awareness Day unanimously at the United Nations General Assembly. Mr. Nikai, the member of the House of the Representatives, actually proposed this to be the special day, and many people worked hard for this. And now this day is recognized as the World Tsunami Awareness Day, and behind this there was a unanimous effort of all the people involved in Japan. And in fact, this is the day that Hamaguchi Goryo used the fire on the rice sheaves to rescue the people and help people evacuate. And in honor of his action, this day is recognized as the World Tsunami Awareness Day. Looking back, the humankind have been ravaged by tsunami many times, and Wakayama Prefecture is no exception. However, what's unique about Hamaguchi Goryo is that he used a torch to put the fire on the rice sheaves to rescue people, help them evacuate. And even after the tsunami and disaster, he also helped build the embankment to prevent the tsunami, to help the people and protect the people in the community. And this embankment is the one that protected and helped the people of the Hirokawa town during the Showa Nankai earthquake. And this is one of the few examples that the humankind won over the natural disaster. So there are things that we can do against the natural disaster, and there are things that we can do to help lives. And I think this is the day to recognize this. Last year was actually the 200th anniversary of the birth of Hamaguchi Goryo. And we actually wanted to have a symposium in celebration. However, because of COVID-19, we had to postpone the event. And actually, it's been postponed to today, to this symposium in honor of him. And every year, on the day of World Tsunami Awareness Day, we have been holding this type of symposium, but not just on the local level, on the national level. The Japanese government has been practicing the same. And this year, the Hamaguchi Award is now recognized internationally to honor the people who contributed to the tsunami preparedness. And I think this will be announced at the end of November as well. Today, we have many distinguished guests with us. First is a singer, writer, as well as actor, Ms. Nakae Yuri, and also the leading expert of the disaster reduction. And he has been the leading expert for a long time, and the prefecture owes him a lot, Dr. Kawata Yoshiaki. So we have 2 lectures today for you. And we also want to add some new perspectives as well, so that we can learn about the great achievement of Hamaguchi Goryo today. Goryo worked so hard, and we should honor that, and we should succeed that as well. At the Wakayama Prefecture, as well as town of Hirogawa, we all working hard on the disaster reduction, in particular for tsunami, to save as many lives as possible. And recently, there have been a lot of technical assistance as well, and I think we are getting into a better shape. I give you one example. Well, Wakayama Prefecture actually is the only prefecture all over the prefecture that we can estimate the impact of tsunami based on the earthquake. So when an earthquake happens, we can project for each region within the prefecture how much tsunami impact they will have. And this information is shared among the citizens in the prefecture as well. So there are many things like this, and they are adding up. And in fact, yesterday, I had a meeting with Mr. Matsunaga, who is the director of Jamstack, and then we discussed, and I thank him for the contribution as well. But these advances, or the technological advances, are not enough. Eternal relief actually is recognized as Japan heritage. So in order to achieve the eternal relief, it is very important to prepare both in hardware and software, as well as a mindset in ourselves, so that when a disaster strikes, we should be able to save lives of the people. I hope this symposium will be a good reminder for all of us. And with this in hope, we organize this event. So I hope you will enjoy the symposium. Thank you very much. That was Governor Nisaka. Thank you very much. And now, we would like to invite our guest to be on stage to give us the congratulatory speech. Please welcome Ms. Reiko Mori, Chairman of Wakayama Prefectural Assembly. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for the introduction. I am the chairman of the Wakayama Prefectural Assembly. My name is Reiko Mori. Today, we are here to celebrate the great achievement of the first chairman of our assembly, Mr. Hamaguchi Goryo. And we would like to, on behalf of the assembly, we would like to thank you for hosting this event. And congratulations on the successful event. Hamaguchi Goryo served as the first minister of the Postal Service, and he also promoted the privatization of the business as well. There were many frictions and conflicts, but he laid the foundation for today's postal services in Japan. He also used his personal assets to build the embankment and save the lives of the people. And today, the disaster reduction effort is passed on to the future generation, And this day, November 5th, is now designated as the World Tsunami Awareness Day by the United Nations. So evacuating from tsunami is the common understanding, and tsunami is the common language across the world. So Hamaguchi Goryo actually executed action and contributed the spirit, and we hope that we can pass this on to the future prosperity of the Wakayama Prefecture. Once again, congratulations on the event today. Thank you.
Now we would like to move on to lecture. Today we have visited the two lecturers. First, Ms. Yuri Nakae, who is actor, writer, and singer. Please welcome. Please give a big hand to her. Ms. Nakae made her debut in the show business in 1986 and played a main character in NHK morning drama Hashiranka. She has appeared in many dramas and movies since then. She's also active in writing, published several movies and essays. Today, she's going to give you a lecture with the title Path Toward the Future, Learned from the History. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yuri Nakae. Nice to meet you all. So I am now participating in this symposium. In honor of Hamaguchi Goryo, I am honored to be here. In 2018 in Tokyo, Chiyoda Ward, the symposium to commemorate the Japan Heritage Registration of the Hirogawa Village, and I was honored to give a keynote speech. And as was introduced, I am actor and a singer. So you would wonder, what is the common thing that I have between me and Hamaguchi Goryo? So let me briefly explain that. This started when I did a search on the Koizumi Yakumo or Lafcadio Khan. He loved the Japan. He loved the local folks, and he is very famous for his novel Kwaidan. And that depicted the Japan or Japanese people from his own and unique point of view. And he also wrote the Japanese folk tales or traditional cultures, which Hamaguchi heard. Normally, those traditional folks were conveyed by mouth, so that is spread only within a small local community. So the local community people, everybody knows. But beyond the local community or other people in Japan, there are many tales that they don't know. So his wife he heard those folk tales from his Japanese wife Setsu, and he recorded in his novels. And I think that's reasonable and understandable that he wrote the story of Hamaguchi Goryo after learning the great achievement of Hamaguchi Goryo. So this is what Koizumi Yakumo wrote, A Living God. And he changed the main character's name from Goryo to Gohei and wrote the Inamura no Hi story. Gohei was respected by villagers. And one day, a big earthquake occurred in the village. And Gohei sensed that the tsunami will come after the earthquake. So he set the fire onto the rice sheaves, which is a precious asset of his own, and helped villagers to evacuate. And he also invited the villagers to his house and supported them. And these days, every information will be spread real time, but not at that time. So what has been done by Goryo has not been known at that time. But thanks to Yakumo's novel, the story of bravery of Goryo has been spread. As I am also a writer, and I sometimes write screenplays, so I strongly feel the power of a story. A story can be generated anywhere, but people who tell or people who write, if there is no such people, then it is not impossible to communicate or to convey the story to other people. And Goryo's story has been spread through Koizumi Yakumo's novels. And based on the novels, the school teacher Tsunezo Nakai wrote a very easy to understand story. That is Inamura no Hi story. This is a very thin notebook, but this was used as a teaching material, and this story was introduced in the textbook of elementary school at that time. So this is how I get interested in Hamaguchi Goryo. And I had a chance to visit the Hirogawa town. I know Hirogawa town for it is the stage of the Inamura no Hi story, but I actually visited there, and I could understand even further how the town looks like and how the people looks like. And it was called Hiromura Past. And this is the presence of the Hamaguchi Goryo I found was much larger than I thought. I strongly felt when I visited the town. And the embankment, I also visited the embankment established by Goryo. And I was actually overwhelmed by the magnificence of the embankment. I had a chance to visit the Hirogawa town once again last year, but due to the spread of the COVID-19, I had to cancel it. And in 2018, November, maybe the similar season of now, maybe late half of the November, I had a chance to visit the Hirogawa town, and I took several pictures at that time. So I would like to share those pictures while I am telling what I felt at that time, and I would like to introduce the site. Now you can see the title of my presentation, which is The Path Toward the Future Learned from the History. From Tokyo, I took a plane from Haneda to Kansai International Airport. And from the Kansai International Airport, it was about 1 hour, so I thought it's pretty close. So this is in front of the Inamura no Hi no Yakata Museum, which was the birthplace of Goryo. And this consists of the Goryo's archive and also the Tsunami Education Center. I am now standing in a parking lot. Due to the COVID-19, not many people from foreign countries or maybe no foreign tourists I saw, but when I visited here last time, before that, I had many overseas people visiting here, and they were explained these museums in English, Chinese, and many other languages. And this is a very good place for the people all over the world to learn about the disaster reduction. We don't have many such places in the world. This is the inside of the museum, and this is the room, simulation room. So it is well edited, and from this simulation, you can think what action you should take when you are hit by the earthquake. The place I am standing is in front of the pictures of collapsed houses. So even children can understand easily. Some places are explained through quiz, so you can learn, and at the same time, you can get a very informative information. And also you can see the tsunami in 3D images. I was involved in media, so in the time of the Great East Japan earthquake, the media always inform the audience that we are going to show you the scene of the tsunami. That is a kind of a common promise among the media, because there are so many people who have traumatic symptoms after those big tsunami. And through that, I thought that we don't have much opportunity to learn more about the tsunami. But if you visit this museum, then you can actually learn what is tsunami and what is disaster reduction. So I think it is pretty meaningful to learn here. And among the things that displayed here, what impressed me is that, as I think these days you heard a lot about the possibility of Nankai trough earthquake. And if the Nankai trough earthquake hit Japan, then in how many minutes does the tsunami arrive? That kind of a question was asked. You choose the answer from three options: after 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. The answer was 30 minutes. So after the 30 minutes after the earthquake, the tsunami will arrive. So it depends on people if you think the 30 minutes is too soon or 30 minutes you have enough time. But if you have a good preparation, then maybe 30 minutes is enough time for you to evacuate. This is also in a disaster reduction experiencing room. So this introduces what happened in Ansei Tokai earthquake. The earthquake story was very well summarized in the video which was shown you earlier. In 1854, in the morning of this winter, there was an earthquake, and all the villagers escaped to uphill where Hirohachiman Shrine was located. At that time, there was no big damage and they were happy, and then they returned to their home. And the next morning, they found out that the well was dried. And then the villagers reported that to Goryo. And in the evening, again, a huge earthquake hit the village. It was much larger than the first one, and the houses collapsed, roof tile flight, and then tsunami also rushed to the village. And then Goryo told the villagers to evacuate. We had an earthquake in Tokyo recently. It is very scary when you experience the earthquake. But you never know if that is the foreshock or main shock. So when you met the big earthquake, then you would. It is more important how to deal after the earthquake. And at that time, the second earthquake was very big, and Goryo told the villagers to evacuate, and the tsunami rushed in, and the tsunami swept away all the houses. And finally, the tsunami was gone, but it's already very dark. And the villagers cannot see where to evacuate and where their families were. In the dark, so that Goryo decided to set the fire to his rice ships to show the way or route to evacuate. The villagers find the fire as a landmark and successfully evacuate and went up to the hill. That was the story of Inamura no Hi. This is the picture of a painting of the Hamaguchi Goryo. So at that time, I bought this plastic file with these paintings. It is pretty impressive file, so I bought it. When tsunami occurred, Goryo helped villagers to escape. That was wonderful, but what is more wonderful is his action after the evacuations. He opened up his house for the villagers. He secured the food for the villagers. And also he launched to construct the embankment. By doing so, he can give employment to the villagers. That will secure the life of the villagers. Without leaving the village, they can restore their life. That's wonderful. And what is more great about him is that he spent the construction cost from his own money. So now it is the responsibility of a public organization. This is kind of a public work, but this was done by one individual. And this shows the construction of the embankment. Well, now we have a lot of technology, more advanced technology, but at that time it took 4 years to complete. The length is about 660 meters, pretty large, very large embankment. And it's helped the villagers from Showa Nankai earthquake, which occurred in 1930. This is another portrait of Goryo. Goryo's face expression is very nice, I thought. Maybe that shows how he lived. Or people respect him. Just looking at the portrait, I can tell that. And this is This is Hirohachiman Shrine, where the villagers are evacuated to. In the case of the evacuation drill, this is also the evacuation spot. And the white board, it explains what this monument is for. The gentleman wearing the white clothes is the chief priest of the shrine, Mr. Sasaki. And the great achievement of the Goryo was written by his Goryo's friend Katsukaisu. And this is the opposite side of the monument. And he also devoted himself to the education of young people, and he also served to the national and the local government.
As you may know, he is also the seventh generation of Yamasa soy sauce, and they have the headquarters in Chiba Prefecture. And right next to their factory, there is a similar stone, commemorative stone, and I don't have a picture here, but I actually went to visit, and I saw that stone with my own eyes. So Choshi in Chiba Prefecture, and they have a similar type of commemorative stone. Of course, he has a relationship with the soy sauce business, but they are both facing the Pacific coast, and I'm sure there are some connection with the fear or the risk of tsunami. Well, yesterday I arrived at Shin Osaka Station, and from there I took a special train called Kuroshio to come to Wakayama. Even in the train, there is a tsunami evacuation manual, and there are instructions everywhere. And Kuroshio basically runs along the coast. So there's always an assumption for the potential risk of tsunami, and this sense of urgency or the crisis. To think back, I think this is connecting back to the story of Hamaguchi Goryo as well. This is a picture from Hirohachiman Shrine, and I believe that people evacuated and stayed somewhere here. So I took a picture in this area. And these two people are the priests, the head priest and senior priest of Hirohachiman Shrine, husband and wife, Miss Miyoko. And actually, this is my first visit to Hirohachiman Shrine, and I asked many questions, but they were very generous answering them, and they also treated me with mikan or the mandarin. So really welcomed me, and I really appreciate that. In the symposium in Tokyo, the wife also came to visit me in my waiting room, and then I had a good conversation with her. So I have a good nostalgic memory of this. And this is a different location. This is in front of Hirogawa town office and a statue of Hamaguchi Goryo. And I'm sure many of you have seen this already. He has something in his right hand or torch. I actually went to see many bronze statues of great people, but this is one of the most dynamic figure I've ever seen. As if he's really about to start running. And I think this is a very interesting statue capturing the moment, and also make us think that the story begins to unfold from here. And we had Tokyo Olympics and kind of look like a torch runner of the Olympics. But I think this is a very symbolic figure, and maybe people would like to take a picture like me with this statue. Different location again, and this is the embankment, called Hiromura Table or Hiromura Embankment seawall, and then I'm standing in front of the panel explaining about his achievement. Actually, this is the site that I was really interested in visiting, and I actually stood on top of the embankment, 666 meters. It's very difficult to capture in one shot, so this is one example of my trial. So along the coast, 5-meter high and 600-meter or so in length, and there are a pine tree planted on the ocean side. And thinking that one single person from the private sector spent his asset to build this, and the scale really impressed me. And I'm trying to think who could do something like this in today's Japan, but I think there's a place to show the appreciation, and every year there is Tsunami Festival as part of the appreciation to his achievement and legacy. This picture across from the embankment, this is located at the place facing the ocean. So actually, when you go there, the ocean is very calm, and it's very hard to imagine tsunami would strike. It's hard to imagine. So because the ocean is calm doesn't mean that tsunami wouldn't strike. I think preparing in advance is very important, and if you can look at these letters written in red to evacuate in higher place, I think it also conveyed a message to have a sense of crisis. And this is looking at the enclave, very calm, very quiet, and you can see some fishing boats. Hirogawa is a town of fishery as well as agriculture. A very beautiful place, and I had a lot of mikan or mandarin oranges. And thinking how tsunami ravaged the village or the town, it's really difficult to visualize or imagine. So those are the pictures that I wanted to share from my trip to Hirogawa. So it was a brief stay, but I really had a very strong impression that this is a town working on the disaster reduction. And this is the birthplace of Hamaguchi Goryo. But I think people have been passing on the spirit of disaster reduction, and I think this is something really amazing and different. But it's not something that we should take for granted. I think there was some intentional effort by the people in the community as well as the local government. And when I visited the Inamura no Hi no Yakata, the museum, and also the fact that the Goryo spent his personal wealth to build the embankment, and visiting the shrine, Hirohajiman Shrine Evacuation Center, they still have all the locations that is a part of the story, and I think it has a significant meaning. And Fire of the Rice Sheaves, the story, the power of the story is something that I feel it's exceptional. Well, memory tend to fade. For example, I'm the generation who hasn't experienced the war, but listening the story directly from the people who experienced the wars, and then I can internalize some of the story. Maybe I can simulate and imagine, and I believe that helped me nurture that type of spirit. And fortunately, we don't have any natural disaster at this moment, but we should not take that for granted. But being safe and being alive is really because of the fact that we've been protected, but by everything our ancestors left. And whatever left a strong impression in our heart is something that passed on as the story. So the story of Hamaguchi Goryo need to be told and passed on. And the fact that the story of rice sheaves have been passed on partly because of Koizumi Yakumo of Afkedio Han, but also became part of the story in the Japanese language textbook for elementary school students. And I put my title for my speech as a path toward the future, learned from the history. And earlier, I was asked a question about what is the path toward the future. So for me, there is a path toward the future from a perspective, but we are actually living the path toward the future from Goryo's perspective, and this is something I wanted to talk to you today. So our ancestors went through hardship and they had difficult times. Then what we need to do is what can we do so that we don't have to go through them. And we need to be creative, and then we need to make efforts. And today, thankfully, we live in a very peaceful world. Well, right now, we are being impacted by the new virus, and then there are restrictions on our activities. But we are making efforts to find a path toward the bright future, and I think there is something common in the spirit of us today and the spirit of Hamaguchi Goryo, standing up against the hardship in front of us and not giving up. I mean, these are going to be the light to be shed on the path for the future, and I think that's the way we should be. So power of stories is something that it's something that we can contribute to, and that will be part of a precious part of the memory, so that this can be passed on to the next generation. Natural disasters happen in different parts of the world today. A couple years ago, when there was a heavy torrential rain in the western Japan, I was in Hiroshima on that day. The rain was so heavy that we couldn't go anywhere and we couldn't even evacuate, and that was really frightening. And back then, I also thought about Goryo, who protected the people from the disaster. So having a strong leader must have been very empowering for many people. On top of that, each one of us need to respond to crises and disasters. But we can leverage what we learned from the achievement of ancestors, and that's what we need to do. And I think that's what we need to pass on for the future. So back in those days, there was a leader called Hamaguchi Goryo, and that was very fortunate. And we hope that we will have leaders like him in the future. But at the same time, I think it's very important to have the awareness about the disaster reduction in each of us. And after overcoming the disasters or crisis, we need to work on the recovery. Amid the crisis of COVID-19, some people are having a hard time in their lives, but we need to make a recovery from there as well. So I'm a little ahead of time, but I would like to close my lecture here. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. That was Miss Nakai. Well, first of all, we are very happy to know that she actually visited Hirogawa town, and please give her a big hand for the lecture. Thank you. Next, lecture by Mr. Yoshiaki Kawata. Professor Yoshiaki Kawata. Professor Kawata is the director of the Societal Safety Science Center of Kansai University, executive director, disaster reduction and human resource
Reduction Institute and leading the researcher of the disaster in Japan. He's going to give a lecture on increasing the international recognition of Hamaguchi Goryo. I'm Kawata. I was so surprised to hear the lecture. In all pictures, Ms. Naka is in. When I use pictures, I never include myself in the pictures. She's an actor, so that's a wonderful thing to do. So I was a little bit surprised to include herself in all the pictures of the presentation. So I learned that this is one way to use the pictures in the presentation. I am the professor of the university and I do research. Through my research, I would like to talk about how to make Goryo as a hero in the world. It is 10 years since the Great East Japan earthquake. Right after the earthquake, 16,000 people were killed. And you would think that this many people were killed because unexpected size of the tsunami arrived. But that's not true. Iwate Prefecture is the place where the tsunami hit first, and there were 30 minutes. And Miyagi Prefecture, they had 50 minutes after the earthquake. Why so many people were killed? Because they didn't evacuate. They were living in an inundated area. 27% of the population did not evacuate. The biggest reason is that they need to work. It was 2:46 p.m. on Tuesday. They didn't evacuate because they were working. And they have, I would say that there is a high sea wall in front of me, so it's okay. So for some personal reason, they didn't evacuate and were killed. Tsunami is a natural phenomenon, but no evacuation is a social phenomenon. So how accurate information of the disaster reduction is given to you? If you do not act, then you will be killed. Assumption. The water is liquid, but below the 0 degrees, then that will be solid, which means ice. And more than 100 degrees Celsius, then it becomes air, vapor. So this is called the phase transition. So that is occurred in the social phenomena. In Great Hanshin earthquake, right after the earthquake, 5,000 people were died. That was also beyond the expectations. And in Great Kansai earthquake, the fire occurred. And 90% of the 105,000 casualties were killed by fire. And the poster of the fire department is earthquake put out fire. So there is a misunderstanding that if there was no fire, then even the earthquake hit the place, you would be escaped. But in Tokai, in the earthquake, 5,000 people were killed under the collapsed houses. So not only the fire, but that also killed people. So when earthquake hit, please evacuate. If it is larger than magnitude 8, then the entire Wakayama prefecture will be hit by the shaking of intensity level 6 for 1 minute. If it is magnitude 9, then in 3 minutes, you cannot stand. And that earthquake could hit Wakayama prefecture. And the tsunami will continue 5 hours. First, it comes after every 50 minutes, And then the tsunami first goes to the Shikoku and then push back to Wakayama Prefecture. So every 50 minutes you should expect a large tsunami. And later, every 25 minutes you will have the tsunami, larger tsunami. If you don't know this, then you cannot be saved. So this continues in any time. People living in Wakayama Prefecture, for example, in the southern part, after 5 minutes, Wakayama City, after 45 minutes, the first tsunami will arrive. If you don't evacuate, you can survive. And the height of the tsunami differ by the area site. But the tsunami warning says that it was in the United States. They only tell you after how many minutes the tsunami will come. They never say that the height of the tsunami, but Japan will also be informed of the height. But the height differs by the area. And it depends on the depth of ocean, just like United States. We have a very detailed sea map. So once the epicenter is decided, then we can instantly know the height of the tsunami to where. And now you can get the information real time when tsunami will arrive. So what is most problematic is that you don't evacuate. So that's what I wanted to tell you before my lecture. So first, I would like to tell you the great person and hero are different. Napoleon is a hero. There are many great people. Great person is an exceptional person who did something that is recorded in history. But the Hamaguchi Goryo is a great person, but also a hero. So you have to be proud of that. According to a certain media, this is a survey done by that media asking who is the great person you like Einstein, Steve Jobs. I think you know Steve Jobs, right? If you don't know him, you're no good. You're living in the present time, and then if you say that who is Steve Jobs, you cannot live the present time. It's embarrassing. So please feel that it is embarrassing not knowing the name of Steve Jobs. If you don't know his name, then you will be lost against the information. Even though you know those names, but you are not that much in detail know why they are great people. For example, Mother Teresa, Indian nurse, she's very famous. But why she is famous? If you don't know that, for example, Japanese historical women, we asked the Japanese women, then most of the people say that they name Mother Teresa as the great person they like. And number 13, Ino Tadaka, he is the person who created the first Japanese map. And Oda Nobunaga, I think everybody knows it, Murasaka Shikibu, Yosan no Akiko. Those people are thought to be great people. Then next question is who is the great person you like or respect? The first place, Mother Teresa. Second place, Hideo Noguchi. When I was in elementary school, I saw a movie of Hideo Noguchi. I remember that movie very well. he got the burn on his hand. He cannot open his finger, but he went to United States and did the research on yellow fever. So, most of the people do not know in detail why he's that famous. So, in order to make Hamaguchi Goryo hero, or especially people living in Wakayama, should fully know why he should be recognized as a hero. The next question is, the answer was divided by gender and also ages. By age, the selection was different. In 1985, a Showa Nankai earthquake occurred. 1854. It was totally dark in winter. The earthquake occurred. Of course, power went off. So, what age were killed most? And I was so surprised to know the answer. The women in 30s. When I found out it, I thought that data was wrong. Women 30s, the casualty rate is much higher than the other ages. Women in 30s, after post-war, they had to care about the babies. So that was winter, and most of them are housewives. So they have to take care not only the children, but also have to take care of the ancestors' tablet. So that is reflected in that data. So in the case of tsunami, fast escaped, fast survived. This still continues to present. We have a lot of data. And then now I would like to move on to the main topic of my presentation. What was the great about him is that he took action. So he escaped the villagers setting the fire to Inamura or the rice sheaves, and he petitioned the Kishu domain to help villagers. But the Kishu domain said that we don't do. If you want to do, you can do. So he got the permission to do on his own. So he get approval and then he moved on. And Kishu domain said, we don't do, but if you want to do, go ahead. And then after that, he created employment through the projection of construction of the embankment, and he paid wages. No farming was available at that time, so by establishing the embankment, he made employment. By doing so, villagers could stay home. He is the 7th generation of the Yamasa Corporation. He had the production site in Edo and Choshi, and he sold the soy sauce in Edo or Tokyo, and sent the proceeding to his hometown and supported the construction of the embankment. And then 1855, Ansei Edo earthquake occurred and 10,000 people were killed in Tokyo, Edo. And that earthquake also destroyed the brewery of Yamasa Corporation. Their business was heavily damaged. So you would think that then they cannot send the proceed anymore. Maybe the accountant would say that you should stop supporting your hometown for the construction, or our company would go bankrupt. But he encouraged the employee to manufacture more soy sauce in the production site in Choshi, which survived from the earthquake. His hometown was damaged. So he worked even harder than before to support the hometown and kept assistance to his hometown. And he finally completed the embankment. As the chairman of the Wakayama Prefectural Assembly said, he became the first chairman of the assembly, and he also became the first postal ministry and contributed to the local and national government. And the embankment, his embankment, saved a lot of villagers from Showa Nankai earthquake in 1946. Well, there are some casualties in neighboring place, but not many casualties in Hiromura village. In 1946 is the year when I was born, so I am 75 years old now. I feel some kind of a fate here, connection here. The embankment he manufactured was effective to the Showa Nankai earthquake, which occurred long time after that. I got the PhD degrees in the Kyoto University. Since then, I went to overseas countries, more than 90 countries, 440 times. There is no such person in Japan. And in 1854, the Goryo time, you cannot find such person like Goryo in anywhere in the world. So maybe it is a shame, but just a small number of the people living in Wakayama who really appreciate and understand the great achievement of Goryo, like Nightingale, Edison, many more names of the great people you may know. But Hamaguchi Goryo, if you're away from the Wakayama prefecture, then not many people would know. He was not even included in the list of the great people. So he, as said, he escaped to the villagers, setting fire to his rice ships. And 32 years ago, Ansei Tokai earthquake occurred. 32 hours before the Ansei Nankai earthquake. 32 hours this time was actually discovered by myself. Edo and Osaka had a different time, and the sunset, sunrise, there are 30 minutes difference. So in Tokyo, they have a sunset earlier than Osaka. Now the Akashi, we take Akashi as a Japan standard time, but in Edo period there is no technology to do so. So they decide the time based on the sunset and sunrise.
So there was some time difference between Tokyo and here, or Tokyo and Nagoya, for example. And searching the archive and checking the time that the earthquake happened, there was some discrepancies. So I wondered why, and I did the research and found out that each local places had its own time. So we needed to make some adjustment. And I found out that there was a 32 hours difference between Ansei Tokai and Ansei Nankai earthquake. Ansei Tokai earthquake has an epicenter far from Wakayama, so it didn't have a big impact or no big jolt in Wakayama. And tsunami, based on the calculation, pretty big tsunami came to Shionomisaki, but after Shionomisaki, the tsunami was rather small. It's called diffraction. So Ansei Tokai tsunami wasn't that big compared to Ansei Nankai, and he petitioned Kishu domain to rescue villagers. And the Kishu domain said that they cannot do it, but they let him work on this rescue. And he launched an embankment construction, and they involved local people who have lost their jobs to work on this, including children, and he paid the wages for the work. And furthermore, the wages were paid in Edo and Choshi for people who worked in the brewery of soy sauce, and soy sauce were sold and proceeds were sent to Hiro village back then. And even himself was a victim of the 1855 Ansei Edo earthquake, but he continued the financial support. And people also put their trust on him, and they continued to work on the construction of the embankment. And then he actually passed away in the United States. And in 1946, there was a Showa Nankai earthquake at 4:19 a.m. The first wave actually ravaged in the dark, because 4:19 a.m. and after 30 minutes, that's about 5 a.m. If you think about the 5 a.m. in the morning of December 21st, it's still very dark. But actually, there were people who said that they witnessed the tsunami, and actually that's not the first wave. There will be 6 big waves, and those witnesses thought that they saw the first wave of tsunami, but actually the first wave arrived in the dark. So here's the comparison of 1854 Ansei Nankai earthquake. On the right, there is a 1946 Showa Nankai earthquake after the embankment was built. In blue area is the tsunami inundated area. And while I was an associate professor at the Kyoto University, I did the simulation and calculation. And of course, the tsunami was not prevented 100%, but 600-meter embankment really had a good coverage of the community where people lived. So I presume Hamaguchi Goryo foresaw that something similar would happen in the future. He heard from his ancestors that there will be a big tsunami after the earthquake, and that's why he put the torch to set the fire on the rice sheaves. He foresaw that for the future, and then he built the seawall, and that really worked well. And here's the picture of the wave breaker today in Hirogawa town. They have some reclaimed area, so they expanded more toward the ocean, but that's the present day town. So what's the strategy to increase the international recognition of Hamaguchi Goryo as a hero? And actually, I am the one who put his biography in the textbook for the elementary school children. I was contacted by the publisher, and then they said the Ministry of Education has decided to put a story about a great person. And they showed interest in the story about Hamaguchi Goryo from Wakayama, and I was requested to write a story, but I said no first, because I've written many academic papers, but I never really wrote a story for 5th grade for elementary school children, and I wasn't confident whether I can do it. But the editor was very enthusiastic, and then said that they would provide support. So I was about to write 4-page story, but in the end, it ended up on a 10-page story. So this textbook is provided to the fifth graders, 600,000 of them, in 9 years. So 6.3 million elementary school children were exposed to this story. In the prefecture of Wakayama, all the elementary school adopted this technology, and they also learned the Japanese language using the story I wrote, which is called Protecting a Hometown 100 Years in the Future. And United Nations in 2015, they assigned November 5th as the World Tsunami Awareness Day. Actually, November 5th is based on the lunar calendar or the old calendar. In the new calendar or the current calendar, it's December 24th. And if you think about the day of Christmas, well, Christmas actually started at the midnight of Christmas Eve all the way to the midnight of Christmas Day. So being November 5th is December 24th today, and if we assigned 24th today as a tsunami day, maybe people in Christian world will be upset. So Japan actually have the Tsunami Disaster Reduction Day on November 5th, but we recommend actually the United Nations also designated November 5th, which is today, as the World Tsunami Awareness Day. So if Hamaguchi Goryo was alive, he would be 201 years old today. And high school student summit on World Tsunami Awareness, World Student Summit. But there are many events or this kind of summits for the college students, but it's very unique to have a summit for high school students. Actually, this is the first of its kind. And this is where we can see an excellent talent of Mr. Nikai. He had an idea to invite high school students and even high school students from Afghanistan, where there's no ocean. And this is what Mr. Nikai said, that tsunami is what's important about tsunami is the evacuation. And even in Afghanistan, where there's no ocean, when there's a heavy rain, they have landslide and they need to evacuate as well. So even without tsunami, the importance of evacuation in any natural disaster, this is very important occasion. I was so impressed. So high school students around the world was invited to Wakayama, and then we held the high school student summit on tsunami. So we want to increase the recognition by the expert and researchers of the achievement of Hamaguchi Goryo, and we want the public to know more about him, and that is why we launched the Hamaguchi Award 5 years ago. And I am the head of the review committee, and on November 29th this year, we are going to have a 6th award ceremony in Tokyo. So Goryo, for sure, is no longer with us here today, but what he wanted to achieve is still very much alive. Well, in case of Nankai Trough earthquake, there will be a substantial damage. As you know, the number of the potential victims will not even at the scale of the Great Eastern Earthquake, East Japan earthquake. So far, 23,000 people lost their life. But if we have the Nankai Trough earthquake of magnitude 8 or higher, we will have 10 times higher number of victims. And these days, there are many people who need assistance in evacuation, meaning that people who cannot go upstairs on their own or they cannot escape outside, and there is an increasing number of them. 3 years ago, in Mabi in Kurashiki City, the Oda River, the river called Oda, inundated. It took 8 hours for 5,700 households to be inundated. And out of 51 people, 42 of them needed assistance. For example, they were on a wheelchair or they weren't capable of going upstairs. And those were the victims of this torrential rain in Western Japan 3 years ago. when we have the Nankai earthquake in the future with magnitude 8, Wakayama will have the intensity of scale of 6 from 0 to 7 for more than 1 minute. So any furniture higher than 1 meter, even though you took some preventive measures, they are going to collapse. So your house, inside the house, will be really a mess. And if this happens at night, it's going to be completely dark. And are you sure that you can get out of the house? 3 years ago, there was an earthquake in northern part of Osaka. It wasn't that big. It was only 6.1 in magnitude, so it's only 1/64th of the Hanshin earthquake. There were some partial damages, but even with that, there was a lot of mess inside the house. In Ibaraki City, Takatsuki, Hirakata, they also had the intensity of 6 in earthquake, and they had a lot of collapsed furniture, refrigerator, and people couldn't lead their lives. And even worse, for senior citizens, it was very difficult to put them back to where they were. And things like this can happen in Nankai Trough earthquake. We all know that we can be rescued if we can evacuate, but there is a risk that we won't be able to evacuate. So, I've been requesting to establish a ministerial office responsible for disaster management. I know this will take some time, but this is exactly what Hamaguchi Goryo trying to achieve in disaster reduction with the self-help, mutual help, and public help. And Mr. Nikai, I've been asking Mr. Nikai to support this so that we can make a progress on this. So for 12 years, this was used in elementary school back then. And from 2011, fire rice sheaves. Actually, I wrote the story about this, and 6.3 million fifth graders learned about the story. It's a 10-page story, so it takes 3 to 4 hours of study with 45-minute class. But I believe that these children get to learn about the great person from Wakayama called Hamaguchi Goryo, and then graduated from elementary school. And this is actually the picture of the textbook. And in 2011, we had the Great East Japan earthquake, and many people lost their lives because of tsunami. And the Ministry of Education actually contacted me to change some of the expression used in the story, because fifth grader are evacuated in different area, and the moment they read the story, they had a flashback, and they'll be shocked to read about what they experienced and ask me to change some wording and languages. So the front page of the textbook was also changed. Well, actually, this is a rabbit and owl, but it was because of this actual earthquake we had to change some of the content. And this is the high school student summit on World Tsunami Awareness Day in 2018 in Wakayama. Many students around the world got together for this summit. Well, many of you actually are not aware of this, but Wakayama actually doesn't have a high number of international symposium or conferences. In 1993, actually there was a World Tsunami Symposium in the city of Wakayama. And I was the head of the execution committee, steering committee back then. And this actually gave a trigger for the repair work of the embankment of Hirogawa town, and we made brochure for that. So this World Symposium in 1993 on tsunami, and hosted in the city of Wakayama, and Wakayama Prefecture really rendered their support, and they also did a lot of preparation. And this is a picture of the first Hamaguchi award ceremony held in Tokyo. Many people attended the ceremony. Well, this actually award was just 6 years old, but in the future, we hope that we can have the presence of the Emperor and Empress of Japan for this award. I mean, this is too early because this is going to be the sixth this year, but I think Japan can be proud of this international award because the reviewers are from the United States, United Kingdom, and the Netherlands and Japan. So we are selecting the award winners from the world. So I think this is something that we can be proud of. At least after 10th event, we want to enhance the recognition of this award as well. Nankai earthquakes and subsequent tsunamis, it can happen any time. Meteorological Agency recently giving report about the seismic activities in Nankai Trough. At this moment, there is no abnormality. However, I just want to remind you, an earthquake happened suddenly. And right before it happens, there is no abnormality. Therefore, you have many measurement equipment and apparatus and checking, but even though there is no abnormality, it doesn't negate the possibility of happening. Regardless of the abnormality, the disaster would strike, and then this is the same as virus. Variants of viruses happen everywhere, anytime. Or even more, I would say, almost on the second level, there is a mutant, the change all of a sudden, then we can't stop these type of changes. The same goes for the earthquakes. The earthquake, as if the mutant variant happens, it can happen any time. And this shows the hypocentral region of the Great Nankai Trough earthquake of magnitude 9 and higher. And the purple area shows where it has a high tsunami, and Wakayama is almost all of Wakayama is part of the potential hypocentral region. It will be a major shake. I mean, the jolt will continue for more than 60 seconds, and you won't be able to stay standing. So without having knowledge, you will know when Nankai Trough earthquake hits because the jolt will continue for more than a minute. So catastrophic disasters likely to occur. And because we are researchers, I mean, we've been talking about this, but this is something you've never experienced. Or if you think about 75 years ago when there was Showa Nankai earthquake, and back then the tsunami wasn't that big, even though with the magnitude of 8. But there is no guarantee the next one will be the same. Well, in fact, Showa Nankai earthquake, the magnitude was 8. There are some says that not all the energies were released, so the next one will be even bigger, and I think that's common consensus. So once Nankai Trough earthquake strikes, it can be a catastrophic damage on the nation. But Japan never experienced this. With the World Pacific War, 3.1 million people lost their life and 1.8 million were regular citizens, but this is exceptional. Why did it happen? Because the military and the important figures in the government were stupid. They were not great. Because they were stupid, and then we shouldn't base assumption on this kind of things. Unlike the United States or the UK, I mean, Japan hasn't experienced a major massacre. Well, COVID-19, do you know how many people lost their lives in the United States? 700,000. And today, 1861, the Civil War claimed 860,000 lives. And number 2, in 2001, because of the 9/11, 2,889 people died, but COVID-19 claimed 700,000 lives. the United Kingdom also lost 480,000 because of the Puritan Revolution, French Revolution 1 million, Napoleon War 2.2 million. Japan is one of the few countries that didn't have a big loss of lives. During Edo period, there was a revolt of the Christians in Shimabara, and 38,000 people in Nagasaki and 8,000 soldiers on the government side lost their lives. But if you look at the industrialized nation, Japan is the only country that doesn't have a major loss of life in the history. So because it never happened, everyone think that it wouldn't happen in the future. So even though we try to raise awareness, people don't really buy that story. But we, as an expert, we can't let that happen. So this is one thing that we started. This June, we launched new resilience forum so that we can be stronger against natural disasters as well as infectious diseases. And Mr. Kato, Chief Cabinet Secretary, came and graced the event. This shows that the national government is fully supporting this forum as well. So Mr. Yokokura, as part of the co-representative, he was the chairman of the Japan Physicians Association, and we have a representation from the disaster side. And Mr. Yokokura knows me very well, and we both of us together met the Chief Cabinet Secretary, and then we requested that we need to have a clause about the emergency responses in the Constitution by amending the Constitution. So the reason why we are making this type of proposal is because after the Ansei Nankai earthquake in 1854, and Hamaguchi Goryo worked so hard, and we believe that we are also doing something. We are doing the same thing that he tried to do. We are not trying to come up with something new for the disaster management. We have the history that we can be proud of, and we need to take advantage of this so that we can prepare ourselves for the future. Therefore, Hamaguchi Goryo, back then, everything that he was thinking is now extending to today. And then we are now working on the disaster reduction in Japan. And I hope you can understand this. And then this is where it started. Wakayama is the place where it started. And Wakayama should be the model or the standard for the disaster reduction. And I hope you can be proud of this legacy. And I hope that you can support our activities as well. Well, I think my time is up, so I would like to close my lecture, but thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Dr. Kawata really reminded me that Hamaguchi Goryo is really a hero for us as well. So let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Kawata. Now, before we move on to the next presentation, today's symposium is live streaming, and in Hirokawa town, which is the hometown of Goryo, the local people gathering and watching the symposium. So let's talk to them. Mr. Sakiyama, a director of Inamura no Hinekata Museum, do you hear us? Yes, I'm Sakiyama of Inamura no Hinekata Museum. Everyone in the hall or every web audience, hello. We are watching the symposium with 40 local people gathering at Inamura no Hinekata Museum. This museum consists of Hamaguchi Goryo archives and the Tsunami Education Center. And this museum displays the great achievement of Hamaguchi Goryo in this
archives. And also, we have a display of the tsunami disaster reduction, and we also have some enjoyable simulations of the tsunami disaster education. So you can learn the tsunami disaster reduction while you are enjoying it. And if you have any chance, please do visit our museum and look around our museum. Thank you very much. Mr. Sakiyama and the people from Hirokawa town, thank you very much. Now we would like to move on to the next presentation. First, the presentation by students of Wakayama Prefectural Taikyo High School. Please welcome them. Taikyo High School started as Taikyusha Training School, established by Goryo and his colleagues in 1852. It will soon have 170th anniversary. The school has a long history and tradition. Following the spirit of Goryo, which has been carried on to the present, students are conducting various activities to contribute to the local society. Today, we have Mr. Yuki Ikkaku and Ms. Riko Iwasaki, both second year of the high school. So please start your presentation. I'm Yuki Ikkaku and I'm Riko Iwasaki, the second year in Taikyo High School. Today, we would like to make our presentation with the title "To Carry On Goryo's Spirit." We will introduce our school, Goryo's spirit, and activities to carry on his spirit. First, I would like to explain about the history of Taikyo High School. Taikyo High School was established in 1852 with 3 people, including Hamaguchi Goryo, in Hiromura village, with the educational policy Jigaku Jiro, or learning and working ourselves. The school name Taikyu is from the name of a training place Taikyusha. It was named so, hoping that the school will continue for a long time and the student would have the spirit of Jigaku Jiro. This is the statue of Hamaguchi Goryo on the school building. Statue is located at the left of entrance gate. These are the pictures of the Taikyu Junior High School 80 years ago. The picture shows us the old building and activities and the student commuting. The school name was changed from Taikyusha, Taikyu Gakusha, Taikyu Junior High School, and after merged with Arida Women High School, it has become the present name Taikyu High School. The name Taikyu has been passed on with the wish that it will last long. When I talk with graduates, I sometimes feel their love to Taikyu. The spirit of many people involved in the school has been carried on in a long history. We are proud of being Taikyu students. Next, I would like to talk about the school life at the Taikyu High School. Let us show you our classes. In our school, one period is 65 minutes. I thought it was long at the beginning, but teachers are trying to give us fun lesson using ICT, and we are able to keep our concentration. Our classes. due to COVID-19, we have less opportunity to do pair work or group works. Next is I would like to introduce our school activities. We have some unique activities such as long hiking, the seminar for our future resolution. The long hiking continues more than 40 years. We walk about 30 kilometers from Koyasan Mountain to Aridagawa Joshimizu to develop Taikyu or endurance, which is our school's name. In the seminar for our future resolution, we invite the graduate and then talk to first-year students. And it gives a very good opportunity to think seriously what is important in choosing job and living their life. This is a cultural festival and interclass competitions. The presentation of a music club held in the school court was very enjoyable, surrounded by open and warm atmosphere. Next is club activities. We have very active club activities with 14 sports clubs and 12 art and music clubs. This year, kendo, badminton, mandolin, and the Igo and the Shogi clubs participated national competitions. And All Japan High School Cultural Festival was held in summer, and 8 students, including myself, from the student planning committee joined and had a lot of nice experience. In the period for inquiry-based cross-disciplinary study, we learned the great achievement of Hamaguchi Goryo. When it comes to Hamaguchi Goryo, we tend to focus on tsunami and disaster reduction, but we learned that he made a great achievement also in restoration of a local community after tsunami, and also by establishing Taikyu School, he contributed to the development of people who can contribute to the local society. It can be summarized in 4 achievements: save a lot of people from tsunami, the establishment of Taikyu High School, the contribution to the local community and society, and the development of local human resources. Now, we would like to give you a quiz. Number 1 question. Who is the novelist who admired him as living god? A. 小泉八雲 B. 二葉亭四明 C. 坪内逍遙 Please raise your hands. A. 小泉八雲 Thank you. B. 二葉亭四明 C. 坪内逍遙 Answer is A. 小泉八雲 This was mentioned in the previous lectures, but Koizumi Yakumo, the other name is Lafcadio Han, who is famous for his Guiden, the stories and the studies of strange things. Second question. Hamaguchi Goryo was the president of a certain company. What kind of a company do you think it is? A. Mosquito coils. B. Sake. C. Soy sauce. Again, please raise your hand if you think it is A. Mosquito coil, B. Sake, C. Soy sauce. Thank you. Answer is C. Soy sauce. He was the 7th generation of President Yamasa Corporation, which is famous soy sauce brewer even today. Third question. What is the meaning of the top right mark? The Chinese character. A. Soy sauce presented to a general. B. The best soy sauce. C. The company on the hill. Please raise your hand if you think A, soy sauce presented to a general. B, the best soy sauce. C, the company on the hill. Thank you. Answer is B, the best soy sauce. Late Edo period, when the shogunate government ordered a merchant to lower their goods price, 7 good quality brands, including Yamasa, were exempted from the order. Government said that your soy sauce no need to price cut and appointed the best grade soy sauce. So the character Jo means the evidence of the best soy sauce. The first one and the second one, you could find the clue in the leaflet. Did you notice that? So that's all for the quiz regarding Goryo. Thank you. Thank you. When we are asked, what is the spirit of Goryo that has been passed on, what comes to our mind is education for disaster prevention, and then the contribution to the local committee, and also the development of human resources for the local area. We cannot make social contribution using our own money like Goryo did, but we are doing what we can do as high school students and engaging in activity that grow us. So next, I would like to introduce our activities of disaster reduction education in and outside the school, and also other local activities. First, yearly disaster drill in March. We invite Yuasa Hirogawa Fire Department and learn disaster reduction knowledge and skills. The picture shows the drill to slide down through an escape chute. Next, evacuation site management gave HUG, which was conducted last year. HUG means H for Hinanjo Evacuation Center, U for Unge Management, G for Game. In this game, we use cards of evacuee with different age, sex, nationality, and programs, and you should appropriately allocate the cards in the plain view of the shelter, such as the gymnasium and the classrooms, and deal with various events happening in the shelter. This is a game that gives you a simulation experience. A player allocate rooms considering evacuees' district attributes, set up toilets, and secure living space. And the player receive visit and interview from other players and exchange opinion freely. You can learn the management of the shelter by playing the game. I was able to allocate the room appropriately with my friends, but I had some difficulty in managing the shelter, such as my allocation created the crowdedness. And we understand that the division of the role and the cooperation with the member are important. Next, we'd like to report the disaster risk reduction activities and the international exchange at World Tsunami Summit. In 2018, it is in the United Nations General Assembly, November 5th is designated as the World Tsunami Awareness. Following the spirit of Goryo, the Taikyo High School participated in the summit. 2018, our school hosted Wakayama Prefectural Program of High School Student Summit. Many students from 29 different countries gathered at Taikyo High School and exchanged opinion and deepened the knowledge of tsunami. It was really a rare occasion where so many foreign students visiting our school, and we had a very precious experience. Next is a field trip. This is a field work to learn the lifestyle at that time at traditional district in Yuasa. Our student attended this field trip and introduced the district to overseas students. They had to use English to communicate with them, so it was really difficult. But when it comes to Yuasa, it is soy sauce. We visited Kadocho, the soy sauce brewer established in 1841. They kindly showed us their brewery and how to make soy sauce and explained manufacturing processes. Seems like overseas students were very interested in and enjoyed it. This is the picture that they were working on the Hirogawa embankment. Many foreign students and our seniors or graduates looks like having fun. This picture was taken in front of Inamura no Hinoyakata Museum. The museum has the archive room of Goryo and also Tsunami Education Center where you can experience tsunami simulation. If you have a chance, please do visit the museum. Next is Asian Oceanian High School Student Forum. Students from Japan and Asian Oceanian countries and regions gathered and shared their opinion on global common issues, made a presentation, and introduced their cultures. Through these activities, the forum aims to develop future leaders who can be active in the global society. This year, Taikyu School made the presentation on disaster risk reduction. So this is one of the slides we used in the presentation. Near future, Nankai Trough earthquake is set to occur with no doubt. We would like to be fully prepared to protect the lives of people we love and ourselves. Next, the contribution to the local community. We always would like to contribute to the local community. In this slide, it says why volunteer activities. We teach local students after school. Every year, about 10 Taikyu students join this activity and teach local elementary school kids. And at Inamura no Hi Festival hosted by Hirogawa Town, we ran a soup kitchen and we also joined a torch procession with local people. This is why the Inamura no Hi Festival. This is held every October to praise Goryo's achievement and increase awareness of the disaster reduction. We joined the vacation drill working from Hirogawa Town to Hiromachi Shrine. We walk about 40 minutes holding a torch. And the curry served at Gold Point Hachiman Shrine is especially delicious. This is Yuasa Eki-kura facility opened last October. At Yuasa Station, the facility was named Eki-kura by a current Taikyu student. The name was chosen among more than 800 applications. When the great earthquake and tsunami hit the Hirokawa town, the location of the Yuasa Station is assumed to be inundated 2 to 3 meters. In preparation for that, the third floor and the rooftop can serve as a shelter for 800 people. Last year, as a part of a commemorative event of the 200th anniversary of Goryo's birth, Inamura no Hi no Yakata Museum invited people to write letters to Goryo. We also wrote letters after fully reviewing Goryo's achievement. And among them, included one excellent award. 7 students from our school won prize. This picture is the award ceremony. One of our students is receiving the certification from town mayor, Mr. Nishioka. As we have presented, Goryo-san is the symbol of disaster, risk prevention, education, social contribution, and also a very familiar figure for students of Taikyu. Thanks to this symposium, we could review the history and tradition of our school and our activities. And I feel that Goryo-san's love of local society and his spirit should be passed on to the next generation, and that is the responsibility of Taikyu students. I believe it will lead to the social contribution. Next year, in 2022, Taikyu High School will celebrate 170th anniversary. 169 years ago, Goryo-san founded our school and named Taikyu-sha with a strong wish that the school would last forever. Since then, many people learned at the Taikyu-sha, Taikyu Junior High School, Taikyu High School, and they have performed their potential for the local community. Looking back our predecessors' achievement, I see that they worked hard not only for Arita area, but for Japan and for the world. Long time has passed, but the spirit of Goryo has inherited to the present Taikyu High School, and I'm proud of being a student of Taikyu. I am sure the Taikyu High School will continue to carry on the spirit of Goryo and develop many good talent who love the local community. And we also would like to keep working to become a person who can contribute to the society. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You call Goryo with the sun. I can see that the spirit of old Goryo did pass to the current students. Thank you very much. Please give a big hand once again to Mr. Yuki Kaku and Ms. Riko Iwasaki. Thank you.
Next presentation is from the UNITAR trainee. UNITAR, or the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, was founded in 1963 as a UN organization to promote decision-making on global and national levels through creative trainings for individuals and organizations. The headquarters is located in Geneva in Switzerland, with a global network of offices in Bonn in Germany as well as in New York in the United States. In Japan, Hiroshima office opened in 2003. Government officials from different countries have attended various trainings, including disaster education. They would visit Hirogawa town as part of the training to participate in tsunami ceremony and festival, as well as evacuation drills. Today, we have a video presentation from the Solomon Islands by Ms. Evelyn Fiulakwa of the United Nations Women. Evelyn visited Hirogawa town in 2019 as part of UNITAR training. Today, she will present what she learned in Wakayama Prefecture. So please take a look at the screen in front of you.
So hello, my name is Evelyn Fiwalaka, and I am from Solomon Islands in the Pacific. Yes, so Solomon Islands is a small island nation in the Pacific. It's northeast of Australia, and this is the line of islands, the archipelago which I come from, the South Pacific Ocean. I have a Bachelor in Science, Environmental Science degree from the University of South Pacific, with more than 7 years of experience in working in the area of disaster risk management and disaster risk reduction and gender and social inclusion. Currently, I'm working with the UN Women Field Office in Solomon Islands on a project called Addressing Gender Inequality of Disaster Risk and Promoting Community Resilience in Solomon Islands program. I am the National Project Coordinator for this project. Next. I have participated in the UNITA's Women Leadership in Disaster Risk Reduction Program, November 2019. So on November 5th, 2019, I was privileged to join the students of Hirogawa Township in Japan to celebrate the World Tsunami Day. I was amazed at the town's history and culture and religion, and how they lead disaster risk reduction and preparedness for tsunamis. How they linked their history of disaster reduction for tsunamis in this celebration for the International Tsunami Day. It was fascinating to see that we started off with a prayer, to the gods of the ocean, to thank the gods and the spirits for giving the township peace and not allowing tsunamis to hit them, and then as well as they actually put the preparedness and the drills as a priority from generation to generation, to show them how they could prepare and every year. So how they could prepare every year to make everyone to be aware of the risk that they exposed to, like the tsunami risk, because they were living along the coastal areas, and they also have the history, which was of how they escaped from tsunamis in the past. And before that, we went to visit the embankment, and we also prayed there, and we put some soil on the embankment to show our respect for the ancestors who built that embankment, and also show our support and in this very important action that they did, build an embankment to protect the village and the town from tsunamis. So this is our photo showing that we are showing us praying and also thanking the ancestors for their action, for their preparedness action and mitigation, that they build an embankment to community there from tsunami to do an evacuation drill of tsunami. And afterwards we went to the tsunami educational center, where we learned about the hero of that town, Goryo Hamaguchi, and we also saw a video about the history of that area. The video was so real.
この時のビデオは非常にリアルで、
Felt like I was in the situation. I was in the tsunami. It was real to get to feel how the people feel about the horror of tsunami and the history of that town. So I would also like to thank you, Hirogawa town, for allowing us to participate in your evacuation drills and your prayers in celebrating the post tsunami day at your town. So yes, thank you so much. Arigato gozaimashita. Yes, so Hirogawa is the same as our town here in Solomon Islands. We are similar in many ways, and we are also a coastal town like Hirogawa. And, our town, Honiara, and the communities that I live, in, we also live on the coast. We are also prone to tsunamis. We had 2 tsunamis already during my time. We had 2. One is 2007, and another one was in 2013. This tsunami hit 2 provincial towns and also communities along the coast. Like Hirogawa, we also value our culture, and religion is also a big part of our lives. We also value our history. So these are similar things that I experienced that helped me to look back when I was in the Hirogawa town. I saw these similarities to our town here in Solomon Islands. It really helped me to reflect and also see some of the things that I can adopt. So it helped me a lot. I learned a lot as well from that experience in Hirogawa town. The importance of having the community coming together. So the tsunami drill was my first time to actually run more than 2 kilometers non-stop in a drill for tsunami. So it really helped me to get the feel of how it will be like to run further from the risk and the tsunami, if there is a tsunami coming. So it really helped me realize that to escape from that tsunami, you cannot run with any bag of food or bag of clothes. It's just you, and it's just you. You have to run by yourself and don't have to carry anything heavy to run with. So that is what I learned. It was also well organized, as I saw, and also inclusive. The students, starting from the little early childhood level, they know when to evacuate. They follow the teachers' advice, and they know the signs and signals. So we just join them and follow them in the drill. So they lead us. This is a picture showing the students in the middle, showing the students leading us. So they took the lead, and we followed them. And also, what I also saw was how they assisted those who couldn't run. So you see, one of our participants was actually in the wheelchair, and she couldn't run that far, so they assisted her and pushed her all the way to the evacuation site, which is where the temple is. So also for the little children, I see they were also put in a cart, and they took them up to the evacuation center. The children as well and the students were assembled in their class groups. so it avoided accidents. Everyone was in line, seated in line, and were all well arranged in their class groups. One thing I learned as well from the evacuation, what I found was having the food already pre-positioned at the evacuation sites where the temple is. So we don't have to carry food with us when we were escaping during that drill. So it was really something that I take back with me to the Solomon Islands. When we were preparing evacuation plans, I always give this example to have pre-positioned food supplies at the evacuation sites to avoid people running with food or thinking about food when they are escaping or evacuating their village from disaster. So they do not tend to turn back and go back to the house to collect money or food. So that is also one thing that usually happens, and also the reason for some people to get caught in the tsunami that happened in the past. Yes, so these are the preserved food supplies that were positioned at the evacuation center. It really amazed me. Yeah, so this is when we went to the Tsunami Educational Center, and after we learned about Goryo Hamaguchi, for me, I think Goryo is a true humanitarian and a true leader as well. Back in his time, way before we know of Red Cross, he was already a humanitarian, and his selfless leadership and creativity in rescuing his community, and the way he rescued the people is very encouraging. I can say that he is very wise. He's a true hero, and as well as he is my icon. And, his story has led me to be more to be more creative, and to use whatever we have in our capacity to help us to prepare, to plan, and to respond and recover from disasters. So, living in a nation that has very little resources, we have to be creative, and we need to improvise to work on what we have in our capacity, and do something in preparation, as well as to plan for disasters. Yes, after finishing the training, the UNITA Women Leadership in Disaster Risk Reduction training, we had action plans, and it really guided us on how we can go back to our countries, and what we can do to ensure that we apply the knowledge that we gained from the training. So after the training, these action plans have given me more interest, and has strengthened my passion in empowering rural women to become leaders and decision makers in disaster risk reduction and disaster risk management. So one of the things that I returned to Solomon Islands and supported the government in doing, and it is also captured in the the project that I am coordinating is advocating for inclusion of women as well as people with disabilities and marginalized, the very vulnerable group of people in our communities to have a space in community-based disaster risk management. So to support this idea or this concept, we supported a review of the Solomon Islands community-based disaster risk management training manual that is usually used to train village disaster risk and climate committees. And we have included in that manual is a unit that will help to train community leaders on how they can include women, youths, and people with disabilities in their programs, in their community risk management activities. So one of these is to have women leaders and youth representatives, a space for people with disabilities to be members of the village disaster and climate risk committees. In this way, they can be part of the planning as well to respond to disasters, and they can be involved in evacuation drills at the community level. So they will not be left behind, and they can contribute positively to the planning for disaster response. This includes tsunamis and as well as other disasters like cyclones and flooding, the volcanoes that we in Solomon Islands are exposed to. I would like to thank you, Wakayama Prefecture, for giving me the opportunity and for supporting our learning. I would like to thank you as well. Would like to wish you all happy International Tsunami Day celebrations, celebrating the 2000th anniversary of Goryo Hamaguchi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. After coming back to the Solomon Islands, she's been communicating the importance of the preparedness for the disasters. And I think this will really work as another reminder for us for preparation for the disasters.
Now lastly, Hirokawa Town Mayor Toshiki Nishioka will give you closing remarks. Thank you very much for introduction. I am the town mayor of Nishioka, the town of Inamura no history. As an organizer, the symposium, the keeping the spirit of Hamaguchi Goryo alive, to close this symposium, I would like to say a few words. First, all distinguished guests and audience, I would like to say thank you so much for joining the symposium. And the lecturers, Ms. Rie Nakae and Professor Yoshiaki Kawata, and the student from Wakayama Prefectural Taikyo High School, and the researcher from UNITAR. I believe that I appreciate sharing your experience and knowledge in this symposium. Your lectures, your presentation are very informative for us to keep working on to protect the lives of the community and disaster reduction measures. As you know, mRNA vaccination has some indispensable material. That material is supported by Yamasa Corporation. I heard that. Shuzogoricum. Without this, the corona vaccination will not be made. Hamaguchi Goryo is the seventh head of the Yamasa, as head of the family who ran the Yamasa Corporation. While he was conducting the business, he also devoted himself to prevent the guerrilla. They contributed to the control of that virus. Biotechnology, which Yamasa Corporation has been accumulated, has been developed, and in 1970s, the corporation used the oligonucleotide was developed for the medical use. So we still see their hard work for the good soy sauce, and also their contribution to the medical industry, and their effort greatly supported the COVID-19 control. And we are so proud of their achievement as Japanese. There are so many other achievements done by Hamaguchi Goryo. If you want to know more, please visit Inamura no Hi no Yakata Museum. You will learn a lot more. Lastly, but not least, today, November 5th, was designated as the World Tsunami Awareness Day in 2015 at the United Nations. And I also visited the United Nations in 2015. And the happy coat I'm wearing is the one that I wore at the United Nations General Assembly. All the members or related to United Nations said that we also want to have that happy coat. But we are so sorry, but I just brought one happy coat, so I couldn't give any to them. Today, all the lecturers and presenters explained in a very easy to understand way about Hamaguchi Goryo. And I also would like to thank the Wakayama Prefecture and all the people involved to make this symposium happen. Once again, thank you so much for joining this symposium.
西岡広川町長でした。
That was
以上をもちまして浜口五両
This closes the symposium in honor of Hamaguchi Goryo, keeping the spirit of Hamaguchi Goryo alive.
長時間にわたりご
Thank you so much for joining this symposium.